are South Africa, a nation not weakened by our differences, but strengthened by them. When we connect around our shared passions and bring all our differences together, then we are unstoppable. It's go time, Bokke. It's go time, Zanzi.
Welcome to this third MTN Fireside chat ahead of the second test between the Springboks and the British and Irish Lions. The series hangs in the balance now, with the Lions having taken a 1-0 lead after their 22-17 win over South Africa in the first test last weekend. There's so many talking points from that game, and I've got a world-class panel alongside me this evening to chat about it all. It's a great pleasure to be joined by two Springbok legends in the studio this evening. First and foremost, to my right, South Africa's most capped skipper, John Smit, who of course led the Springboks to victory at 2007 at the Rugby World Cup and the 2009 Lions series, of course. Just to name a few of his accolades. And then alongside him is former Springbok centre Wynand Olivier, another 2007 Rugby World Cup winner, and of course 2009 Lions series winner as well. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me this evening. You're not the only people joining me. We'll also be getting two former Springbok fullbacks in Percy Montgomery, the first South African to play 100 tests, as well as Zane Kirchner, who featured in the 2009 Lions series. He also played 31 tests for the Springboks. Of course, you can also get involved in this fireside chat. Feel free to drop any questions in the chat panel during this live stream, and I'll do my best to pass those questions along for our guests to answer. But of course, I'm going to start off by welcoming you, gents. Wynand, I'm going to start off with you. Can you tell us a little bit about where you are right now in your life? I know you hung up your boots a couple of years ago. You're back in South Africa now. What's going on with you?
Yeah, it's been great. I moved back in 2019, June 2019. Been back for 2 years now. Part of a private company called Penta Motor Group. It's a little bit different. Obviously, I had to find a real job sometimes. So, yeah, but it's been enjoyable. I'm happy to be back in South Africa. Family's all settled in. I got 2 kids now, a little girl and a boy. Yeah, and they're my life currently. But I must say, I'm enjoying life currently. It's good to be back.
I know you were one of the first South Africans. I think Jacques Fourie blazed the trail with guys going over to Japan. Obviously, you played in Japan for a bit, and then you went over to Europe. You played in France and England. What was that experience like for you, leaving the Bulls after all those years?
Yeah, it was obviously tough leaving the Bulls. We were quite a quiet family there. But I must say, traveling the world, playing in Japan, France, and then moving to the UK, finish up there, it was quite an experience. I was fortunate enough to play all the big competitions of the world. So it was a good experience. Obviously, I had my wife with me all the time, so it was quite nice having her alongside me and experiencing all the different experiences, the cultures, the food, traveling the world. Yeah, the last 2 years, my little one was born, which changed life a little bit, but it gives you perspective. And yeah, it's been. I was fortunate enough to play for a very long time, and yeah, happy to settle back in South Africa. Catching up with all teammates and all that, so it's great to experience all that and come back and see the youngsters perform now.
100%. John, you've been a busy man over the last few years since you left Durban. I understand you're up in Joburg now. How much stuff do you have going on? It's a lot, I think.
Actually, Pretoria. So okay. We moved to Irene about 2.5 years ago from Durban. So yeah, big change, and obviously the family coming over. And I came for a year earlier, and so my eldest finished school, but. Commuting is a tough gig, so great to have them here. I must say, Pretoria has been a pleasant surprise for us from a family and a lifestyle point of view. Our business is SSG Holdings, as we do security, cleaning, and facilities. So it's been quite a busy time with what's been going on around the country. So it's like Wynand says, it takes some adapting to transition into the real world, having a real job, and having responsibility that extends far more than to just 15 guys on the field. So, yeah, it's been a phenomenal opportunity. My journey outside of rugby, coming through the Sharks into Richmark and then into SSG, has been a really cool one. I've been very fortunate, very blessed with opportunities, and currently sit in a fantastic company that does really well.
Fantastic. I'm gonna bring in our guests on the line as well. We've got Percy and Zane, like I mentioned, joining us via the internet. We'll start off with Percy. How's it going, Percy? Why don't you start off with telling our viewers tonight where you are and what you've been doing over the past few years?
Well, everything's been all right in Cape Town. It's been a bit cold. Been hibernating here in Cape Town. We're waiting for the summer to come to arrive so we can get out a bit. But obviously just involved with the circumstances, like John said, with this COVID and all that. It's been quite stressful for a lot of people, but still involved with a couple of charities, the Atlas Foundation and Positional In Foundation. And we actually tried to do the Ironman a couple of months ago, and we managed to get through that. But now I think I'm going to taper off a bit and support on the charities that a lot of people are out there that need our help. Especially companies and especially for the little kids.
100%. I was about to ask you about your Ironman stint, but you've touched on it. And then we've got Zane Kirchner on the line as well. Zane, it's great to have you with us here this evening as well. I went and I looked through social media. I tried to find out what you're doing, and things were a little bit quiet there. So I'm very interested to find out where you are and what you're doing with your life these days.
Thanks for having me. Now I'm down in George. Moved back, I think, end of 2019. Family with me, little daughter, 7 years old. Full-time dad at the moment. Doing the school runs, keeping myself busy with that. Doing a bit of kicking coaching, assisting a couple of one-on-one players, needs a hand. But as you said, wasn't much to see. Like to keep myself under the radar.
Fantastic. Percy, I'm just going to throw it back to you quickly because you are a veteran of 2 Lions tours, although in 2009 you were the kicking coach for the Boks. Take us back to 1997 because that was 2 years after rugby turned professional. What do you remember of the tour and how different was it from 2009?
Well, coming off a Currie Cup win with Western Province, sorry John, but coming off a win with Western Province, it was quite an amazing experience with obviously Dickie Mee, our captain, and we had James Small in the team as well, and then being selected for this for the Lions in '97. And I only played the second test, which we actually won, and I scored a try. So it was quite an emotional first test match for me, being so young and being involved and playing with your heroes, your childhood heroes, Andre Jabeur, James Small, Henry Honeyball, Gary Teichmann. So it was a real rude awakening for me. And unfortunately, it didn't go away in the third test. And it's the same as it's a big hype. I think that young, you don't realize how big it really is. And it happens so quickly on the field. But and then again, going on to as kicking coach for the second Lions tour. Obviously, I was a water boy as well. No one spoke anything about me. I'm not allowed to be a water boy, but and communicating. So I think it's a bit unfair on Rusty as well, But it was a really good experience, and I think hopefully I helped the guys in that the Lions tour. Obviously, they had a great victory with Mornay Staines the winning kick.
100%, yeah. We're going to chat a little bit more about the Waterboy situation in a little bit, but I'm going to take you guys. I'm going to take you back to this last weekend and the test that was in Cape Town. John, you were there at the stadium. Firstly, I guess it was not fitting of the occasion. It's the first test against the Lions. No one in the stadium. What was the atmosphere like? I guess you could hear everything that was going on.
It is almost an eerie feeling, because I remember I was nervous for that first test in Durban, and I thought I'd get some comfort running out at home at Kings Park, and I came out and it was this, we'd driven from the hotel through this Red Sea, and we ran out. It was this red army of just shouting and screaming, and the atmosphere, the intensity is something that I hadn't experienced ever. Because in a World Cup final, there's a lot of people have booked tickets in advance, so it's just noise for everyone, But this was intense. It was insane, and that's all I could think about on Saturday was these players are going to be deprived of that experience, that intensity, and it's a unique experience. You don't get it in any other test matches. So for me, that was a sad sort of start to the day, and there was a sad ending to the day. But it's certainly something that I think is probably the biggest factor that's missing from this Lions tour, is that they're not going to experience. It just ups the ante. It's it was the most amazing experience ever.
100%. Wynand, I'm going to throw it over to you. Just your thoughts on the game in general. We were talking off air, and you said it was a pretty fair test match, a pretty good test match. The Lions walked away with it in the end, and there is a lot to talk about, and we will touch on it in a little bit. But just your thoughts in the beginning. Do you think the Lions deserve to walk away with the first test?
Yeah, obviously after watching Rassi's interview today, he pointed out quite a lot of things. I quite enjoyed that, but I think it goes both ways. I think probably the one thing that stood out, obviously we were a little bit match unfit. We haven't played at that level at quite some time. In all honesty, playing against Georgia and playing against the British and Irish Lions and the All Blacks, it's a completely different thing. Yeah, so I think there's a couple of players that played at Premiership and all that in the UK for quite some time, but there's a lot of players that never had that exposure in quite some time as well. So, but I think obviously the second test is completely different. The boys, they know what the mistake was, and I think the second test will be completely different.
Zane, I'm going to throw it over to you quickly. Just in terms of the kicking game, I found it quite intriguing that the Lions actually ended up playing a very similar game to the Springboks in terms of their kicking their bombs onto the wings and that sort of thing. And perhaps Bokke Smith that's where he was found out. Were you surprised to see them kick as much as they did, or do you think they executed their game plan perfectly?
I think if you look at our strength in our defense, there's not really a lot of space for them on the field. And if you look at the team selection with Tuan and Anthony Watson on the side, who was a previous fullback, I think it's something that they pre-planned coming in. Even their first line out, where Bigger went for that up and under on Ceslin. So I think it was a pre-planned thing from them from the start, that they thought, but listen, for them to get into the game, it is how can they turn our best weapon on ourselves. And I think to the back end of the second half, it turned out to work for them. It's always a gamble playing your kicking game, especially when it comes to your high balls on the day. And I think they were just better on the scraps and collecting those. And at the end, they gave them a lot of momentum into the game and a lot of ascendancy to the end, where they've driving maul, a couple of penalty kicks. So I think a lot of momentum and energy they got from that.
John, I'm going to throw it to you now. This result changes the whole psychology of the tour, because in 2009 you guys won the first test, and you went into the second test with a lot of confidence, and that probably G'd up the Lions, just considering how far they went ahead in the second test before you guys made your comeback. It's completely turned on its head. What's going to happen in the second test? It is tricky, and you always want to get that first punch in, and the first test is critical, and it's even more so for the Lions. They haven't won many series where they've lost the first test match, and so they'll be sitting back in their preparation this week thinking there's a bit of insurance. They've got the upper hand. So they could probably be a bit more, sort of brave on the weekend. But the psyche is thankfully one that we didn't have to think about, because it's just, we wanted to get in early, we wanted to play, and we wanted to really make an impact early on. And it was almost carbon copy of this test match on Saturday, because the Lions, when they pick their first starting lineup, and they have weeks of touring and they've played all these teams and they try combinations, but normally when they pick their first test match, that's their first 15. And it takes that group time to gel, and in that first test they got better and better and better. They got a rhythm, and we probably tapped off a little bit and allowed them to get some momentum, managed to close the test off, and then they started the second test really confident. It also did help that we went down a man in the first 30 seconds, but then it was a struggle. But we at least knew we had a buffer, we had a game in hand, and we could fight back. Now we looked at our box at half time, and I said to Nick at the time, watching in the stands as the privileged few that can watch the game live, I said, we're just not far ahead enough. Our guys aren't match fit. They haven't had the ability to prep. Match fitness takes 5 games to get match fit, and for the kind of intense game that our players play, it's really critical. And you can just see them, and they were always going to fall off in the second half, and that buffer just wasn't big enough. Wynand, you'll remember that second week of the tour in 2009. What was the mood like in the Springbok camp, and do you think the Lions camp will have a similar sort of buoyed by confidence having won that first test now?
Yeah, definitely. Like somebody said, you've got a bit of a buffer winning the first test. I think the nice thing for us was in that 2009, we were in Pretoria. You had a vibe around the city. There were red jerseys everywhere, Springbok support everywhere, which at the end of the day makes a little bit of a difference. Obviously, when you're on the field, it doesn't make that much, but it builds you up. You know what, you want to play well, you want to perform for the country, for your family, for the boys next to you, which makes a bit of a difference. Now these boys they're away from home. They've been away for some time. They come at the back end of a season, so they match fit, tails in the air. So it becomes quite a difficult thing for us now to win. I think as South Africans, we never make the same mistake twice.
No.
So hopefully the boys will pick it up this week. I think our kicking game in the first test match weren't up to scratch like we were in the World Cup final. We didn't give our wingers the opportunity to perform. We didn't give Cheston the space he needs, which puts us a little bit on the back foot. But I think, like Rassie pointed out a couple of things today, I think the media game has been quite an interesting one. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next test. And obviously playing down in Cape Town, there's no Highveld, there's no pressure like that on the boys, which makes a massive difference. Because everyone knows you play in the Highveld, Pretoria, Joburg.
It's tough, man.
It's tough, right? After 60 minutes, the lungs burn.
Yeah, 100%. Look, you touched on it briefly there. The biggest talking point has been Rassie and the points that he's made in the media about the inconsistencies of the refereeing. And we're not going to go too much into it because, Rassie said what he said. But I'm going to throw it over to Monty now because he was the water boy back in 2009. Monty, what was your role as the water boy? I mean, obviously you were the kicking coach, but were you bringing on the same kind of messages that you think Rassie would be bringing on now in the last two tests?
I think it's not just the water boy. I think it's the doctor, the physio, it's everyone. It's a team game, and that's so crucial in when you're on the field. When you're getting messages to come down and just report back to the players, and it plays a big role, and it's very important in the game. And I don't see anything wrong with it, but it's a professional game now, and you got to get you can see a better version of the game on top, and Warren Gatland, obviously, he's sitting at the top there, and they're communicating the same as we are, Unfortunately, it's the media. They're trying to disrail us off our game plan. John knows that South Africa, when we play the way we want to play, New Zealand, Australia have always tried to get us through the media off our game plan. But if we stick to our strengths, we will beat any team.
I'm going to move over to the Hamish Watson yellow card because I think that was probably the most contentious issue out of everything that happened, the tip tackle. Wynand, your thoughts on that? If you think it should have been a yellow, and if they got it wrong, because I think a lot of people did think that they got it wrong.
Yeah, definitely. I think if you go according to the rules, obviously it should have been a yellow card. Initially I thought as well, listen, maybe just a penalty, but if you look at it afterwards, I looked at it today as well. According to the rules, should have been a yellow. And I think all that players can ask for is consistency. If what goes for the one side needs to go for the other side. And I think the ref got that one wrong, which might have 63 minutes into the game. Puts us ahead 19-17. It's quite a crucial call at the time.
We saw in the visuals there, Zane Villy Leroux getting up for that ball and then obviously being on the receiving end of that tackle. He's been pretty good, since he's been back in 2021. Your thoughts on his performance and the back three as a collective in the first test? Maybe, Wynand said, maybe not as many opportunities as they would have liked.
Yeah, I think as the game's going at the moment, the style that we play, I think with Villy's left foot, he's quite lethal in that, and the calmness he brings at the back. Obviously, everyone would want to see Cheslin get his hands more onto the ball, which would probably create a bit more opportunities for him. And at the moment, that's not our style of play. As we say, we keep the ball in front of our forwards. But I do think once they get their hands on the ball, if you look at Villy's involvement over the World Cup and the couple of touches he got into this game, I think he's quite influential. And we just need to be patient this weekend. Hopefully those things can come off.
John, there was a bit of a focus on the set-piece battle, and obviously Oxenchair was injured at halftime, and a lot of people obviously didn't know that until this week. But there was a real momentum shift from the scrums in the first half to the scrums in the second half, and just more defence in particular as well. Your thoughts on the changes that were made, and if it had a real bearing on the game?
Yeah, look, I think the bomb squad was something that I think was a game changer for us at World Cup. The trouble is, it was on display for the whole world, and everyone has seen the 6-2 split story. They've realised that this is a forward pack that is coming. And the scrums, I thought, the starting pack did extremely well. I mean, Tag Furlong, arguably best tight end in the world from a scrumming point of view, a defence. He steals, he carries. He's a tough customer. Now, Ox has got to be one of my local favourites in terms of how he's played the last couple of seasons. I just love watching this guy. And the sad part about it is there were a couple of things that I think are on debate. And again, I suppose I can't get too wrapped up in the debate between bad calls and good calls, but I was a captain that got really frustrated, and coaches get frustrated because it's out of their hands. You coach the whole week, and then by the time that captain runs on the field, all you've got is the mic or the water bottle.
Yep.
and
Make sure you remember to take
and so a referee and a group of referees holds the key to your ability to be able to do the job. So look, it's impossible to ref a game perfectly. Yeah. So all I ever wanted as a captain was the consistency. So I knew that certain things were no-go areas with referees, and they had different preferences on where they blew harshly and where they were quite loose. And I think on the weekend it was just quite loose everywhere, And Ox, why I mention is because Ox is, he got popped in a scrum where he was dominating, and the tight head dropped his bind to his arm and bent him inwards, and the flanker pushed him the other way, and the penalty went against Ox, and he got injured. Now he misses out the whole series. So, this is it's a small thing, but it could change the trajectory of Ox's career as a Springbok.
100%.
And so these things are important. I mean, I had to choose man of the match. Now, I can tell you right now, it wasn't difficult. Itoji was really good, but he wouldn't have got it if he'd gotten the yellow card that he should have when his knees were on and he stopped what could have been a penalty, but could have been a try. So a penalty to stop a try is a yellow card, but that didn't happen. What does it do? It changes the trajectory of his career. Now he's a Lions legend, man of the match, first game taking the Lions forward. So it's always the media and the banter is brilliant. It's what we talk about. But it's these decisions and a looseness around adjudication. We're not asking for perfection, but we're asking for to know what to expect, because that looseness of adjudication affects people's lives that are there in the game. So
I was going to touch on it, just in terms of the officiating. I know you can't say too much about it, but Rassie said what he said, and like Wynand said today, he put out an hour-long video. He basically just highlighted all the inconsistencies, and he's saying, hey, we want clarity on this. What happens now? I mean, do you think Rassie would have to step away, or is he going to get a slap on the wrist? And what happens now? So,
I mean, look, I haven't seen the video, thank goodness. I'm pretty sure it's spread across the internet. You know what it's like? This is a tricky situation. Again, I've spoken about the frustration of a coaching staff around adjudication, because it's a massive part of your anxiety as a captain or a coach. But you can't expect, to go to a game and expect a referee to get everything right. It's like me going to my wife and pointing out every single item, or her pointing out every single thing that irritates her. Once you point it out, that relationship takes a very different pathway. Whereas if you do it in a subtle way, or there's a way of doing it, again, I haven't watched the video, but it's very much like a marriage. You and the referees, your team and other teams, their relationship with the referee is such an important one. As soon as you start taking pot shots, that changes. Then you start talking about custody and divorce settlements, and things get messy.
Yes. No, I hear you, but I mean, on the flip side of that, a crying baby gets fed, right? And Wynand, Rassie's pointed out the inconsistencies that he saw. I think that this weekend we will see the refs be a lot more fair and try to be a lot more consistent across the board. What are your thoughts on that?
I hope so. Obviously, like somebody said, it's quite difficult. You just want consistency throughout. But these days, you've got the TMO there. So why not use him? If there's a 50-50 call, use him. it does frustrate us as viewers and all that, but it needs to be said. Why does it work for the one side but not for the other? So you look at all the different things that happened over the weekend. Tackle on 5, the side entry, the this, that.
Yes.
They go back and watched it for the TMO for the Lions, but not for the Springboks. So does it frustrate you? Definitely.
This is where
but
you got to tip your hat to Gatland, because so far he's sort of winning this battle of
because
the minds.
he started it
in
last
the
week.
referees' meeting, I think it was on Thursday,
Yes.
he walked straight past Berry and the linesman to our TMO, Marius, and said, "I don't agree with your appointment." And from that moment, he was in
the pressure's
Marius's
on.
head.
And he hasn't had to say another thing since.
And he, to be fair, you could debate the tries and that, but that little Gatland voice was in his head.
course.
I could only imagine every time Nick went to the sort of put the square out, I could only imagine the anxiety running through Maurice's
100%.
body at the moment.
But does the same thing not happen now? Now Rassie said everything that he said. I think Ben O'Keefe has been named as the ref this weekend. Ben's going to be thinking, hey, Rassie's going to put together a video next week and I'm going to have to answer to that now.
Ben's going to look for buying a positive COVID test somewhere. to get out of
look very quickly for some changes. Look, I think we could go on and on about the refereeing last weekend. It is what it is, and we don't want to put too much pressure on the referees. I think it's a pressure cooker enough as it is. We're going to move on to team selection now because there are a few changes to talk of. We'll start off with the Lions team and start off in the pack. Mako Vunipola coming in at number 1. He's the real change in the pack there. What do you think the thinking is behind that, just in terms of the first test and what happened?
I am slightly biased. Mako I played with, and he's a phenomenal rugby player. And when he was a youngster, he was a more athletic ball carrier, but he's without doubt the best Lucy they've got in their squad. And it's interesting to see them put him on as a starter. I think his role probably is, for this team, is probably suited to come on in that last 35 minutes and have an impact. But he's probably going to go the distance. If they've put him on as a starter, he's probably going to go the distance, and they want him to be able to contain Frans Malherbe for the 80.
Zane, we spoke about the kicking game, and Conor Murray came on in the second half, and he's now starting at 9 this weekend. He was really good with his box kicks. Are you surprised to see him in the starting lineup this week? I mean, he was even at a stage the tour captain.
Not really, because we all know what game Conor brings, whether he's now for the Lions of Ireland or for Munster. We know what game he brings. Pretty much going to slow the game down quite a bit, and it's going to be. We thought last week was an aerial battle. I think we've got more coming this week. Surprisingly, I thought with Ellie Price, where they had a left-right footer last week, he wasn't used that much. But definitely going to be a different scenario this weekend with Murray.
Wynand, I'm going to take it over to you to chat about the centres. Elliot Daly literally got tackled out of the starting lineup by Lukanya in that first half. That hit was massive. But Chris Harris comes in from Scotland. When I first saw the test sheet or the team sheet for the first test, I thought that Chris Harris should have been in that starting lineup. And I was a bit surprised to see Elliot Daly starting at 13. Are you surprised to see him out of the starting 15 this week?
In all honesty, I quite like Daly. Okay. He brings a little bit of a different dynamic. He's got his left boot. He's got the long-range kick if you need it. Obviously, in the high five, it would have made a massive difference where down a captain, it doesn't match. I think Chris Harris is also a good player. I don't think we've seen him play that much at this level. Playing for Scotland is one, but playing for the British and Irish Lions is a completely different thing. But he's got the guys around him, so I think I don't think they'll differ a lot from their game plan from what they had. I think he does bring a little bit more of a running game to the side. It'll be interesting to see where they're going to use him, what they're going to do with him.
Monty, your thoughts on Duan van der Merwe? We didn't really chat about him much in the Fireside chat last week. Obviously, he is the South African in their ranks. What do you think of him as a player, and what do you think he brings to the party there?
Yeah, he's been playing so well for Scotland, and he's been the back three has been really good, and he's been a good finisher lately, and so now I think we lost a great player there, but I don't think they're going to change much. I mean, in the SA8 A game against the British Lions, Gatland said, we know where they're forward, so we have to take on the forwards. They're going to be physical, and they've worked. Warren Gatland has worked. They know they're strong around the rucks. They're not going to change anything, and they're going to take us there. So I think like John knows, it all sorts up front, and and that's going to be important for the Springboks.
It does start all up front, and that is where the changes started in the Springbok squad for this weekend. Obviously, Oxenchair was ruled out with injury, but a change to a Rugby World Cup winning front row, I guess you don't lose much, even though Trevor and Ox did a fantastic job starting last week.
See, I don't think that there's an A and a B or a starting and a finishing. I honestly think that any combination of the 6 to 8 front rows that we've got is equally good. I mean, here we've got a front row that finished the World Cup final, except for Malcolm, who'll come on. Mm-hmm. But we are blessed with front rows, and I think that's where people have been quite harsh on them. You know, expecting the bomb squad front row to come on and smash, but you must remember we didn't have another lock to put in behind them. So it's 3 fresh guys, but with 5 other eggs who haven't had quite the amount of time in the S&C to sort of give them the impetus and the support to be able to turn that scrum around. So there's so many factors, but this is a very, very... Springboks have always got a very good pack. Yeah. I mean, Monty's obviously just realised that the only reason he was successful is because he had such a good forward pack for such a long time.
Look, I'm gonna keep talking about the props as well, because we chatted to Trevor Nyakani yesterday, and I asked him, what are the technicalities of shifting to cover tight head from loose head, and you're well placed to talk about switching from hooker to prop, which is probably more difficult, but tight head to loose head, because he's on the bench this weekend and he's now covering loose head where he started tight head, and I think he said he last played tight head or loose head at test match level in 2017, so it's been 4 years since he's played that position. Is that going to make a difference when he comes on?
And again, remember, we're taking for granted that he's covering loose head. Yes. What if Jacques got 3 tight heads to go up against them in 3 chuckers? You know, so look, Trevor was a natural loose head for his whole life. He hasn't played there for a long time, but that's where he started. For me, shifting from tight head to hooker was pretty tricky from a technical point of view and throwing. But tight head is the hardest position on the field. And loose head, as long as you don't swim past and you keep your bind and you've got a strong arm and you've got a support base, you know, it's probably an easier position out of the front 3 to survive in. Because if it really goes pear-shaped, you can sort of slide a little bit on the outside and get away with a bit of murder. But Trevor was a very good loose head, and he had a tough transition. Took him probably a season and a half to start earning the respect as a tight head. And now I thought he had a great performance in the first 40 in that first test. Stole some balls, got around the park and held his own in the scrum. So yeah, we're blessed to have these kinds of tight heads because, you know, it's a wonderful job for fat boys, but it's an incredibly important and difficult one on the tight head.
100%, especially at test match level. The other change to the Springbok pack comes at number 8, and unfortunately, Kwagga Smith was Jacques even said this week, he probably threw him out to the wolves, you know, putting him in the test match arena and maybe not expecting how much they would kick on him and how he would be found out. Zane, I'm going to throw this one out to you. Just as a fullback, having a number 8 like Dwayne Vermeulen or someone like that who can really get some go forward when you're being kicked on, how much does that help the back 3? And do you think Jasper Wiese is really going to make a big change this weekend?
Simple, pass the ball to Dwayne. Yeah, I think definitely with his size and know what's going to come in terms of high ball, aerial battle, I think he's going to be well prepared. And I mean, if you look at his frame and the way he's been carried in the previous games, I think he's definitely going to be the guy to be able to get us some go-forward ball from those high balls returns.
Monty, I'm going to throw this one out to you. Just Damian Willemse, he's covering a lot of positions this weekend. What do you make of him as a player? I think he's bulked up quite a lot, and it's amazing to see him be able to cover 10, 12, 15. He's got a big job ahead of him because he's literally the only back replacement other than Herschel Jantjies to scrum off.
Yeah, he's a great player. And he showed in the Rugby World Cup what a fantastic player he is. And he's got a huge role ahead of him as a senior player now as well, to help the others and make do what the British Lions throw at him. But I think for the backs, they're not. To be honest, I don't think I'm going to see much ball. It's all going to be up front for the second test, and it's for the backs. It's just getting up on your feet and getting back and helping each other and securing that ball.
Speaking about the backs, Wynand, I think the Springbok midfield is really probably looking the most solid it's looked for many, many years with Damien and Lukhanyo. Just your thoughts on them as a combination and how good that looks for the next few years.
Yeah, definitely. I think Damien has grown as a player quite a lot. I've watched him play for months over the last season, and I think he's been brilliant. From his defensive game, his offload game, his running game, everything, he made a massive step up. And I think his combination with Lukhanyo has been brilliant. They're playing off one another quite good. And I think the balance in the backline is, I think that's the one key factor that makes a big difference. From Andre, his distribution, giving guys like Jason a little bit of space. They might have been underplayed a little bit, but in general, I think our backline is pretty good. You can't fault any of the players of what they've done over the weekend. Yeah. I think just from a presence point of view, a guy like Dwayne brings a massive presence. But if you look at the stats from Bokke, he had a decent game. Yeah. It's just the presence that lacks a little bit. And obviously, if you've got a guy like that, it brings a little bit more space to the backline. And I think that's one thing we need. So maybe Jasper Wiese can bring that presence.
John, you spoke about the bomb squad. The bomb squad is back. Are you surprised to see Rassie and Jacques be like, hey, we need the bomb squad back, we need 6 forwards? And does that really kind of just signal what the Springboks are going to do this weekend?
It certainly does point into the direction that we're not going to be going wide very regularly. I think it's probably a tried and tested in terms of what they know. The other thing is, Kwagga is a sevens player. He could probably cover something if there was a complete crisis in the back. You could put
him on the wing.
So Kwagga does sort of give you that, and that's probably where Damon is now sort of the new Frans Steyn as well, where Damon has also shifted quite a lot. So Damon's been incredible. In the short spurts that he's played, he's just been super impactful. But I'm afraid as a bomb squad member, he's going to come on as a minority backline player. It really is up to that group of 6 forwards to see what they can do in terms of changing momentum and trying to get the box to go a full 80 with probably a tank of gas that isn't full yet. They just don't have a full tank. They haven't had the time to be able to play. So it's probably the best way to get more out of them and keep them more competitive from an intensity point of view over the full 80. So, I'm not sure they had too much choice after what they saw and how the guys did fade off a bit in the second half.
All right, we've got some questions coming through on the YouTube channel. From Jabulo Mbata, he's asking, what would the second half collapse be attributed to? John, maybe you can take this one. And where do you think it went wrong in the second half?
So again, I think, and I feel for the guys. They had 26 guys quarantined in Joburg with COVID recovering. Yeah. I think they got their first session in. It was on 10 or 9 days before the test match. One game, which was probably a 3/4 Bokke team in that SA side. So no game fitness, no ability to train together. I mean, you can Zoom, and this is quite cool because we can Zoom and we can all sort of see each other from all over the world. But it's very difficult for a rugby team to effectively train virtually. You have to get the hits. You got to get the physicality up. So we ran out of gas. We just don't have that match fitness, and we were up against a formidable team. They changed their tactic. Elliot Taylor, you're right. He got tackled out of there, and he probably, when he missed that long range kick from just inside of his half, that was probably one of the things that would put him in that side, and he couldn't get it at sea level. But every time they went wide, it played into our defence, and they just said at halftime, okay, let's go to Bokketown and kick it up, chase it, and keep it tight. And they absolutely smashed us at our own game, 100%. And we didn't have the energy to get out of that.
Monty, you played in over 100 tests for the Springboks, and you've been on the receiving end of a loss. What is the psychology of a Springbok team after a loss? And this is the question from Dean Marie. What would the panel's talk be with the players before the start of the second test, knowing that this is a do-or-die game? You've been in that situation before, I'm sure. What has been said in the past, and what would you say to the Springbok players?
I think, obviously, coming off a loss, especially a Springbok, we don't play to lose, and we're a proud nation, and we're not just playing for our nation, we're playing for our families, for our teammates, our coaches. We put a lot of work in it, but we all know a wounded Springbok always comes out firing, and I've got a good prediction about the second test. It's going to be a lot closer than you think. And it's going to be won, obviously, by the kicking, I think. And I think the guys are going to work the penalties. And like you always say, keep the scoreboard ticking. And it's going to be a closer game than you think.
The Springboks have been here before in the World Cup. They lost to New Zealand and they literally had to win every single game to go through from there. Wynand, they've been there before. Do you think they can tap into that and say, hey guys, we need to bounce back here and we know what it takes to play winning rugby for, I mean, now it's only 2 games, but at the World Cup it was 6 games that they had to win.
Definitely. I think the boys know the game plan. They know what they want to do. They know how they want to play. And it's like Monty said, a wounded Springbok is quite a dangerous thing. So I'm looking forward to the next test. I'm with Monty. I think it's going to be a completely different game. It will be tight though. Obviously, kicking will decide it. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think the Springboks they're up for it. Like I said earlier, they don't make the same mistake twice, and they've been in the situation. They just need to back themselves, and obviously it comes down to fitness a little bit.
We got another question coming through here on the YouTube channel from Cabello. Zane, you can take this one. With the return of the bomb squad for the second test, do we not feel like the Lions have been preparing for the bomb squad due to their success in the World Cup? I think that's a pretty pertinent question because, like you said earlier, John, they showed their hand a long time ago. That's a big strength of theirs, 6 forwards on the bench. Zane, are the Lions ready for that?
I think they've probably prepared for it. But what stood out for me in that SAA game is you look at the start that Eben had on that smash on Liam Williams. I think that set the tone for that game. And at the moment, having a neutral field with no spectators, I think we need some of those sort of starts. And as South Africans, once you put on the green and gold, you just grow, whether that's in size or in presence. And I think that's what we're going to need, and that's what we're going to have this weekend. So whether they've got 6 and we've got 6, South Africans are made of something different.
Okay, we've got another one here. I'm going to take it because we do have a little bit of time left from Nadine Govender. We never saw Cheslin get a chance to run and score tries in the style we've seen before. Is that a case of good defence by the opposition or our backline not getting the ball to the number 14, Wynand?
Well, it's probably one of the biggest test match they're going to play in quite some time. So you always expect it to be quite a tight game. I think our kicking game went on target, which obviously put us a little bit more under pressure. So, and like Zane said, once you put on the green and gold, you grow in size or whatever it makes. And I think we lacked a little bit of presence in the second half, physicality, which if that comes out a little bit more in the second test, we get guys like Cheslin and Damien in the back line a little bit more opportunity and freedom to move. We've seen what they can do if they do get it in the World Cup. They've done it before, so I think the guys just need to tap into that and get stuck in a little bit over the weekend.
Fantastic. All right, I'm going to take some quick predictions here before we let everyone go. Zane, let's start off with you. What do you think the scoreline is going to be this weekend?
Springboks by 6.
All right, Springboks by 6. Monty?
22-17 Springboks.
Oh, okay, so same scoreline, but to the Springboks this time. Zane and Monty, we're going to say goodbye to you now. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us this evening. 2 absolute Springbok legends. It's fantastic to catch up with you guys. John, your score prediction for this weekend?
I was so close last week. I said Springboks by 2 scores. This one's going to be tight, and I think there's going to be, because of all the traffic and the mind games on the referees, I think we're going to see a lot of penalties. Mm-hmm. So I reckon 15-6.
Oh, wow.
Box.
Okay, 15-6 to the Springboks. No tries, just penalties then, eh?
I'm like giving you a prediction and a structure of how it's going to happen.
You're a soothsayer. Wynand, to you, what do you think the scoreline's going to be this weekend?
Yeah, I think the Boks by 6.
Okay.
I don't think it'll be a high-scoring game. Obviously, penalties decided. I think between Monty and John, I think that will be the scoreline.
Okay, fantastic. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here this evening. It's really, really good to catch up with you and all the best with your current endeavours. We do miss watching you on the rugby fields, but life moves on. Remember, if you're with MTN, you too can tackle the Springbok Trivia. It's a rugby-themed subscription service that awards subscribers with daily rounds of Bokke Trivia questions on the web and mobile game. Go to boktrivia.mtn.co.za and subscribe to Bokke Trivia for just R3 a day. We'll give you the first day for free because we love you. And one round of the Bokke Trivia web game includes 15 rugby-themed questions. You swipe right for the right answer, left for the wrong ones, and at the end of each round, your correct answers are converted into points for the grand and weekly cash prize draws. So test your rugby trivia and stand a chance to win big, including your share of R1 million in cash. Thank you very much for joining us for this MTN Fireside Chat.
Say hello to Bokke Trivia, an exciting rugby trivia game to test your Springbok knowledge and win big. Visit boktrivia.mtn.co.za and subscribe for only R3 a day and be the one to beat. Answer 15 questions in 5 minutes. Just swipe right for yes or left for no. Build up points and stand a chance to win big with Bokke Trivia. With weekly cash prizes and more. Stand a chance to win your share of R1 million. One of 100 signed Springbok jerseys, one of 10 autographed framed Springbok replica jerseys, or one of 100 Springbok hampers. It's go time Bokke. Everywhere you go, MTN.